have a lot of weird stories about deodorant to tell you. Kurt Cobain wrote his biggest hit about a stick of deodorant, and Arrid Extra Dry once inspired a man to drive an amphibious car all the way around the world. The very first commercial deodorant was developed in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, in the year 1888. It was called Mum.
For security reasons, Mum's the word. New Mum cream deodorant, now with M3.
Now, the word mum has existed in the vernacular since at least the days of Shakespeare, and to keep something mum means to keep it quiet. But the product actually coined the phrase, mum's the word. Mum arrived in a little container, and you would rub it on your fingers and then rub it right on your armpit. And prior to Mum being on the market, people just used to stink. Women used to put on a lot of perfume to try to mask the odor of stinking, and they also wore dress shields, which they would put inside of their dress under their armpit.
Any girl knows one dress shield stops wetness from soaking through clothes. 2 shields stops twice the wetness.
The active ingredient in Mum was zinc oxide, which was used to kill the bacteria in your armpits, which in turn kept your armpits from stinking. The next deodorant came out in 1903. It was called Dry, and it used aluminum chloride to try to mask your odors and keep you from sweating. This would be applied with a cotton ball, which you would then rub on your pits, which is a little classier than using your fingers. They were getting closer to modern deodorant, but Dry did have some problems. It would irritate your skin often because it was a very strong chemical. It would also eat through your fabric of your clothes over time. The next deodorant was created by a woman named Edna Murphy, and it was called Odor Oh No. Edna Murphy's father, Dr. Abraham Murphy, had created an antiperspirant which she used as the basis for Odor Oh No. His was not commercially available to everyone. Instead, it was something just for surgeons, and it was only to use on your hands to keep your hands from getting sweaty as you held a scalpel or whatever medical instrument you were holding. And she thought, hey, maybe we could take this antiperspirant that's designed for hands and apply it to the pits. Obviously, there were at least 2 other deodorants or antiperspirants that came out before Odor Oh No, but it was the first one that was widely commercially available, and so Edna is considered to be the inventor of the mass market deodorant. Jules Bernard Montagnier is the other big name that people talk about when they talk about the early days of deodorant. Jules was born in Chicago in 1895, and he was a chemist by trade, but he invented a product called Stoppette.
So switch to Stoppette spray deodorant. Look for it at your drug or cosmetic counter in this new Help Yourself display.
Stoppette was a very popular deodorant and the first deodorant to really make inroads in commercials on television.
Find out for yourself why millions have turned from old-fashioned deodorants to the new convenience, new effectiveness of Stoppette. At your favorite drug or cosmetic counter, ask for Stoppette spray deodorant.
Stoppette was a sponsor on the CBS game show What's My Line?
Brought to you by New Stoppette. Will you come in and sign in, please?
You say he's not here before we get here, so it can't be a doorman.
Well, that lady's Bill Paley.
And it can't be a stand-in.
That's come down and no more to go, and you may remove your mask
to get
and
out
meet
of
Dr.
here.
Jules Montagnier, our sponsor.
The deodorant was known for its catchphrase, Poof, there goes perspiration. Stoppette was revolutionary and changed the industry, so other people started thinking outside the box, including the people at Mum. In the late 1940s, Helen Disserens, an employee at Mum, started thinking about the ballpoint pen. Now, the ballpoint pen had been invented by a man who sold it to Mikkel Bick, who then introduced it to the entire world. And the interesting thing about Mikkel Bick was that he didn't know that the ballpoint pen would be successful. He first tried one out and thought, why would I need this? And then he went out in his yard and he pushed a wheelbarrow. And as he pushed the wheelbarrow, he said, you know, the groove that I'm making with the wheelbarrow is making the wheel slide across it very well. And I think that a ballpoint pen would do the same thing on paper, which would make your hand hurt less as you wrote. Well, Helen looked at the ballpoint pen and thought, this could be used as a way to get deodorant onto your armpits. She worked and refined this ballpoint deodorant, and it became Ban Roll-On, which was introduced by the Mum Company in 1952. Another deodorant that was around at that time, had been introduced in 1935, was Arrid. And the active ingredient was 20% aluminum zirconium tetrachlorohydrexgly. During the 40s and 50s, Arrid's slogan was, "Don't be half safe, use Arrid to be sure." And this slogan inspired Ben Carlin to drive an amphibious car all the way around the world. Because of Arrid, he named the vehicle Half Safe, and he started his journey in 1950. He was accompanied by his wife on this 8-year journey, and they drove across 17,000 kilometers of land and 62,000 kilometers of water in this amphibious half truck, half boat thing. I remember the Arrid Extra Dry commercials from the 1970s and 80s with the slogan, "Get a little closer with Arrid Extra Dry."
Get a little closer. Now don't be shy. You can get a little closer with Arrid Extra Dry.
Here's an interesting one from the 70s, a deodorant called Tickle, and it had a wider ball up top and a unique fast-drying formula.
Why are women so happy about new Tickle antiperspirant? Is it because Tickle is the first roll-on with a big, wide ball? Make yourself happy. Staying drier is nicer with a little Tickle.
Teen Spirit was released by Menon in 1991, and it became a hit, very, very popular with young teenage girls. The sales of this deodorant were boosted drastically when Nirvana came out with the song Smells Like Teen Spirit. Now, the backstory is that when Teen Spirit came out, people laughed about the name. It kind of sounded funny. Oh, you smell like Teen Spirit. And Kurt Cobain had a friend that wrote on his wall, "Kurt smells like Teen Spirit." Kurt didn't know this was a brand of deodorant. He read it and thought, yeah, I smell like Teen Spirit, the rebellion of youth. That's what the Teen Spirit. And he thought about how much he liked that phrase and liked the idea of smelling like Teen Spirit. And it wasn't until after the song came out that someone told him what Teen Spirit was. The girl that wrote it on his wall was his drummer's girlfriend, and she said she did it because Kurt's girlfriend wore Teen Spirit. And so she said that whenever she was around him, he still smelled a little bit like Teen Spirit deodorant. This is not the only song that a rock group ever recorded about a deodorant brand. The Who did an album many years earlier that was called The Who Sells Out, and it was full of fake commercials, including one that they did for Heinz Baked Beans. And on that album, they did a song about the deodorant brand Odorono. This is the portion of the show where I always tell you to go over to Patreon. I hope you do. I send postcards to everybody for just $3. You can sign up. You can be like Michael and Jessica, Chris. You could be like my big brother, Rob Hutchinson, and Matthew David Chapin. Secret, the deodorant for women, came out in 1956 from Procter & Gamble. They had been spending a decade working on the formula for this deodorant, and they advertised it as, finally, a deodorant for women. But the truth was, originally, all deodorant was for women. They felt it was kind of manly for men to stink, so men never thought about wearing deodorant. It was women that would put on perfumes and wear those dress shields. But now, the tables had turned. If you're curious what I smell like, it's Arrid Extra Dry. I like the aerosol. I'm sorry, greenhouse gases. I still like to use that aerosol. It just coats really good. I think it's great. Arrid Extra Dry. You got to go to like the bottom shelf of the deodorant section to find it. And when I travel, I can't bring it because you have to check your bag with that. And so a lot of times if I'm flying, I'll have to bring my backup deodorant, which is Speed Stick. It's kind of a low-end deodorant. I think Speed Stick is one of those that it'll give you like half a day worth of coverage. But I do like that. The roll-ons are good. The problem with the roll-on is you never really know when you're done with it. Because, I mean, technically you'd be done when it's completely dry, but if every time you roll, you're rolling a little bit of your perspirant into the antiperspirant, right? So eventually I feel like your stink would overpower it to where that you'd go to roll that on and be like, no, this thing's done, right? You can't roll. It's going to roll right off. I love the bit of trivia that it was based on the ballpoint pen. I just love that. The Bic Crystal, the originator of the mass-produced ballpoint pen. The Bic company, which I find so fascinating, a company that is well known for ballpoint pens, razors, and lighters. And they're like equally famous for each of the three things. Mikkel Bic, fantastic man, great story, contributed to the microplastics of the world. You can learn all about him by clicking the video I did right up here. Otherwise, YouTube says that one's best for you. And there's a second channel, and it's up to like 210 subscribers now, so you can go be like 211. The channel's on the move. You got to go check out the second channel. I'll see you next time.